Alright, welcome to the most boring video you will ever see. For those of you who have been absent a lot, I've decided this was the only thing I could do for you. It takes me too long to type up notes which are all in my head for the most part. So I'll have to do this quickly while religion class is still out of the room. All right. As you have already noted, I hope, unless you missed these notes, the play opens up essentially with the appearance of the ghost. The ghost is the character that impels the action. Shakespeare made a decision to do that. He made a decision to impel the action by means of a ghost. Did he do this in order to sell tickets or give work to unemployed actors? No, he's a very careful playwright, so he did this in order because the image of the ghost is important to the thematic structure of the play. The ghost is what? The ghost is a purely spiritual presence. The ghost is incorporeal. He is not of the body. That fact in and of itself sets us off on the basic dimensions of the play. The ghost, when he meets with Hamlet, finally asks that Hamlet revenge his death. More specifically, the ghost gives his request for revenge in very, very particular terms. The ghost gives Hamlet details about the death of, well, about his own death, the death of Hamlet's father. And he refers to his death as a foul and most unnatural deed. And he refers to his death as leading and stemming from an adulterous and incestuous bed. I'm looking at Act 1, Scene 5. The ghost tells him that his death is the consequence of murder. And Hamlet asks, "My uncle?" in line 48. And the ghost responds, "I, that incestuous, that adulterous beast, with witchcraft of his wit, with traitorous gifts. O wicked wit and gifts that have the power so to seduce, one to his shameful lust, the will of my most seeming virtuous queen." And there it is, in a nutshell. The ghost reveals to Hamlet that the cause of his death, of Hamlet's father's death, is an incestuous act, an adulterous act, an act which essentially stemmed from lust. He puts it all in very strong terms. And then we have in 61, Act 1, Scene 5, "Though lewdness court it in a shape of heaven, so lust, though to a radiant angel lead, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage." Again, the language is very, very strong. Now, while Hamlet is having this conversation with the ghost, we already know what's going on inside of the castle. Hamlet's uncle is feasting inside of the castle. It's the middle of the night. The uncle is feasting. The uncle is drinking. And Hamlet, before the appearance of the ghost, Hamlet comments that Denmark is taking on a very, very bad reputation. It is taking on a reputation as a bunch of drunkards. And this is due in great part by the actions of his uncle. So we have it basically from two sources. And what we're talking about here is this sense of corrupt bodily presence. Now, again, Hamlet is seeing the actions of his own uncle. He is witnessing the all-night revels of his uncle and the court, the eating and the drinking. He is aware of, probably too keenly aware of, Denmark's reputation now as a nation of drunkards. Secondly, the ghost appears to Hamlet and emphasizes that his murder is based on an act of lust, because his uncle, Claudius, had already seduced Hamlet's own mother, even before the murder was committed. Hamlet then has a very, very skewed view of the material world, maybe with good reason, but that skewed view of the material world is going to feed the play from this point on. Now let's move on to the second act. Now, in the second act, we have some summaries of what's going on in terms of the foreign affairs of state of Denmark. Young Fortinbras of Norway has been raising troops in order to invade Denmark and to revenge his own father's death. His own father had been killed in battle with Denmark. So Fortinbras Sr. of Norway was killed in battle with Hamlet Sr. Norway was killed in battle with Denmark. Now young Fortinbras wants to take revenge on his father's death. Okay, so this is becoming a parallel, is it not? Yes, it is. And since the death of the older Fortinbras, now his brother, so young Fortinbras' uncle, is sitting on the throne of Norway. So a young man whose king is his uncle, seeking revenge. This is the situation in Norway. This is the situation in Denmark. So we have exact parallels. Now, in some productions of Hamlet, this whole business of the conflict between Norway and Denmark is deleted for the sake of brevity. But you can see that Shakespeare is setting it up so carefully that, again, he's doing so with a purpose. So just hold that on the side there, and we'll get back to that later in the play. In Act 2, Scene 2, Polonius meets Hamlet. They meet in the library, and they have what looks to be a very, very obscure conversation. Polonius wants to know what Hamlet is reading, and Hamlet says in line 210, well, I'm reading words, words, words. Polonius asks, what is the matter? Meaning, what is the material of the words? But Hamlet intentionally misunderstands him, and he says, between who? And Polonius says, no, that's not what I mean. I mean the matter that you read. And then Hamlet explains, I'm reading slanders, sir. For the satirical rogue says here that old men have gray beards, that their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum, that they have a plentiful lack of wit, together with most weak hams. All which, sir, though I most powerfully and potently believe, yet I hold it not honesty to have it thus set down. What is Hamlet focusing on in his response to Polonius? Is it just gobbledygook, or is there some kind of purpose here? Notice that every detail that he mentions has to do with aging and time and physical corruption. The satirical rogue says here that old men have gray beards, their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging thick, etc. Why is Hamlet focusing on this? Why is he dwelling on this? That goes back to Act 1, because already from two sources he's become corrupted in his conception of the material world. Then in the next scene, we have the entrance of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, as you know, have been recruited by the king to kind of spy on Hamlet. They are school friends of Hamlet. They ask Hamlet the usual kind of introductory questions, how you been doing, and Hamlet again goes off into this commentary on the corruption of the world. Now Hamlet asks Rosencrantz and Guildenstern why they are in Denmark, because he suspects their motives. What have you, my good friends, deserved at the hands of fortune that she sends you to prison? To prison here. And Guildenstern asks, prison, my lord? What are you talking about? And Hamlet responds, Denmark's a prison. Line 260, Act 2, Scene 2. Rosencrantz answers, well, then the whole world is one. And Hamlet agrees. He says, a goodly one, in which there are many confines, there are many wards and dungeons, Denmark being one of the worst. Rosencrantz responds, we think not so, my lord. Hamlet says, why then, 'tis none to you, for there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. To me, it is a prison. Appearance of the ghost. First act. A purely spiritual presence. Hamlet's view of the world as a place of corrupt material. Okay, so you've got spirit and mind over here, you've got corrupt body over here. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Now notice how that comment makes a specific distinction between the material world and the physical world, that there's no correlation. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. An apple is not truly a rotten apple unless you think it to be. If you think that a rotten apple is a good apple, then it's a good apple. But there you're ignoring the objective fact that the apple is indeed rotten. So again, the separation. Mind and spirit over here, body over here. This is why I made these opening comments about such historical movements as the Albigensians and the Monophysitists and Gnostics in general. Okay. The exchange between Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and Hamlet continues. Hamlet again expressing this separation between mind and body. He acknowledges the beauty of the world. He acknowledges the beauty of creation. He acknowledges the beauty of man, but even while doing so, he denies what he himself